Yes, my people, welcome back to the channel. And it feels like a while since I've done one of these for obvious reasons. Of course, Man United haven't played in so long. It's been 24 days since we last played. And so obviously I've been trying to keep myself busy by doing other types of content and whatnot. But of course, this is my favorite thing to do. Obviously, watching Man United games, talking about Man United. I've had to wait 24 days for this. 24 days. Um, and I just want to start off by saying, what is that? What is that? The last time I watched my team play was Ramadan, right? It was around E times. Good feeling. Everything was going well. We look like we're secure in Champions League football. We look like a team that's full of confidence, a joy to watch at the moment. And to come back to that performance, I mean, I didn't get the chance to watch the actual game yesterday because I was at Baller League, unfortunately. So I saw glimpses of it. So I thought, you know what, let me actually watch the game back today and actually look at the performance and look at why we actually lost. What happened? What happened last night? What I mean, from what I heard yesterday, I couldn't, a lot of people were telling me, it's awful, the defense is diabolical, and I don't know if it was an exaggeration. So I said, you know what, I need to actually watch it with my own eyes. I need to actually analyze it. I need to actually watch the game back to see for myself what went wrong, essentially. And where do we even start? I mean, the first thing, of course, I'm not even trying to make any excuses, but the inactivity shows, man. A lack of football shows. We went up against a Leeds side who are currently battling relegation. They're not the best team in the league. They're a team that obviously right now they're currently fighting for their lives, and they recently played. They actually played in the FA Cup. They went into extra time against West Ham. So that's a team that are currently, quite warm. They've been playing. They're active, and it showed. Let's not lie. It showed. The difference showed. You got one team that are completely rusty in Manchester United. You can see the rustiness, and you got another team that were just sharp, and it showed on the pitch. It showed in the fight, in the players. And we will lose in that first half. Let's say that first half specifically, diabolical across the pitch, diabolical. Especially the defense was absolutely diabolical. It could have easily have been 4-0 to Leeds at one point. They just had chances after chance, and of course, I don't want to be harsh and act like it's the end of the world, but it was alarming. I'm not gonna lie to you. Euro had an absolute stinker. Lissandro, who's usually our most reliable defender, usually the one that you can kind of rely on in terms of his experience, his aggressiveness, and his understanding and reading of the game. He looked a little bit lost at times. It's a bit weird. Of course, Kobe wasn't there. We had Ugarte in place of Kobe, and that's also a loss. I think that was a miss. We miss Kobe, because he's the only one I feel like who can keep the ball well in that midfield, and we lost that. So there was a lot of issues. I felt like there was a lot of problems. Of course, Carrick decided to go with a completely different back line than he usually goes for. Managerial obviously had a start as well, and yeah, it was a extremely poor performance. I can't believe we had to wait 24 days for that. 24 days we had to wait for a performance like that. And you know, prior to this game, my United fans were in a good mood, including myself. I'm not gonna lie to you. We were, feeling good about our team, feeling good about ourselves, feeling good about our future, looking ahead into next season, what life could be like in Champions League, whatever manager comes in, what the future or what the next steps at this club could look like going into next season. But I think, we need to actually calm down a little bit. I think we need to calm down and, look at what's at stake at the moment, look at, the situation at hand now. Because at the moment, as much as yes, other teams around us in the top four are not doing well, Chelsea, Liverpool, and Aston Villa, they're not doing too well. We need to still get the job done. We still need to get the job done. It's not completely over. There's still 6 or 7 games left to play, and it's still up for grabs, including ourselves. So until we actually secure it mathematically, we can't get complacent. And I felt like, I'm not saying necessarily the team are complacent, but as a fan base, I feel like we're becoming a little bit complacent and content with, I feel like things were so bad before and the bar was so low that now we're just happy and accepting of the fact that we're just sitting in third and potentially could secure Champions League football. But there's still a lot of improvements to be made. I look at that team and there's still a lot of areas that need to be improved. Of course, the midfield is the most glaring one. Ugarte, I'll be honest with you, when it comes 1st July, he needs to be the first one out the door. We need to be honest about that. He needs to be the first one out of the door. But then there's also other areas that does require improvement. But again, it comes down to, priorities. We do need to prioritize the midfield, but I also do feel like we need another centre half. I also do feel like we need another right back. I also do feel like we need another left back, potentially another left winger, potentially another striker. So, the team is not, it's far, this team is far from finished. It's far from the finished article. And I feel like we need to, really be honest with ourselves and reflect on what this team can actually achieve, and also what they could potentially achieve. But again, that comes down to the managerial appointment, which I'll talk about in just a moment, but also the recruitment in the summer. I think this recruitment this summer, this next transfer window, is going to be key. I think it's make or break for whether or not we are title challengers next season, or title contenders next season, or we're competing on all fronts. It's that big of a window for us. It's a crucial window, and we need to get it right. So of course, we need to prioritize the midfield, but we do also have to look at other areas if we need to. Credit to Leeds. I think Leeds, of course, like I said, it's a team that are currently have a lot to fight for. They are fighting for survival. They are trying to stay in the Premier League. And they showed it, man. They were, let's be honest, they were better than us in every single department, whether it's winning duels, winning tackles, determination. They were just better than us at every single department. And, you got to just credit them, and they deserve the win. I know it's a derby in their eyes more so than us. I don't think for them, of course, it means more to them. But again, for Manchester United, this is Manchester United Football Club. Every game we need to be, treating it, respectively. And I feel like this was a game that on paper we should be winning comfortably. Let's be honest, and unfortunately, this is now Carrick's first loss at home. And you need to also ask questions of him. I mean, look, Carrick, for me, right now, you could argue, is in a favourable position for the job, right? He's probably the leading candidate, especially given the fact that, the managerial market is cooked. There's not a lot of options. If we're being completely honest, there's not a lot of managers out there, for us to look at. However, there can still be question marks asked of him. I mean, the lineup, for one, I didn't understand it. To be honest with you, I felt like he should have just stuck with, maybe Dalot right back because he's in form. Let's be honest with you. I felt like maybe Mbeumo should have started as well. Couldn't understand why Mbeumo didn't start. I mean, again, we have a good squad, we have good players, and there's nothing wrong with rotating players. But sometimes, don't fix something that's not broken. I think he should have just went up with the normal regular lineup that he's been going with for most part of his, time here so far. But again, we do expect players like Ahmad and Yoro and Managerial to come in and still get the job done. We don't. Lissandro as well. Lissandro's an experienced player. He's a World Cup winner. We expect him to come into this team and perform, and unfortunately he hasn't performed. The goals that Leeds scored, the first goal, yes, you can argue maybe there's a foul on Euro there, but it's a bit tame. It's a bit tame from himself. I think he wasn't aggressive enough in that duel, and ultimately, the cost us a goal. And then the second goal was just diabolical defending. Honestly, it's just diabolical. It was almost like we're just asking to concede. The ball's just bouncing everywhere. We're just heading it. We're not clearing the danger. Forced to Akafor again, and he scores again. So yeah, it's just diabolical defending. I think Euro needs to really. I mean, Euro, look, I know a lot of people have mixed feelings towards him. About especially this season. I think it hasn't been his greatest season. He's had a lot of down moments. But the potential's there. I still believe in Euro. I still think there's a good defender there. However, questions can be asked of him as well, because I think he's been here long enough now, to be put in a performance, especially against, a relegation side. Let's be honest, it's a team that's in relegation. He shouldn't be getting bullied in that manner, I think he looked lost. He looked like a lost puppy out there. And then obviously Lissandro getting sent off also doesn't help, You could argue again, maybe it was harsh, but that's the rule. It's the rule book, You should, there's no need for that. There's actually no need for that. And there's no danger in that moment as well for him to be doing that. So yeah, I mean, Lissandro, listen, I don't want you to go down the Romero route, and of becoming unreliable, because look, Lissandro for me is a top defender, but when it comes to availability, he's already unreliable. The last thing we need is for him to be unreliable on the pitch. Do you know what I mean? Because now he's going to miss a game and puts us in a more difficult situation heading into the Chelsea game next game. So Yeah, I mean, it's just, yeah, across the park, it was just not good enough. It was very poor. Um, and Michael Carrick needs to, quickly, get the players on board, get the players on side, and put in a strong performance against Chelsea because, like I said, this Champions League spot, this Champions League race is far from over. Within 2 games, it could turn on its head. I mean, we're on level points with Aston Villa, we're 3 points ahead of Liverpool, and Chelsea are what 7 points behind them. But if they beat us next week, they close it down to 4. So guys, I mean, we need to wake up and not get complacent, not get carried away, and think that Champions League football is already here. It's, yeah, yes, we're in a great position. Absolutely, we're playing. We don't have too many games to play, but we need to get the job done before we can celebrate. I feel like we're starting to, you know, we're getting too carried away with it, and I think we're sort of, you know, getting too excited before the job is actually done, and we don't want to be that team that bottles things or doesn't get over the line. We need to get over the line when it comes to Champions League. We do need to get that. It's very important that we get it done, and I feel like we need to stay focused as a fan base, but also the players, the club, everybody needs to be. I think we need to take it a bit easy with that. So, yeah, very disappointing result. Not gonna lie, very disappointing. But we need to bounce back. Chelsea's the perfect opportunity. A team that is obviously fighting for top four as well, or top five now. I keep saying top four, but it's actually top five now for Champions League football. So we need to put in a respectable performance. Um, yeah, maybe this is the wake up call they kind of needed a little bit. I think it just needs to take a little bit of a kick up the arse just to realize, listen, the job's not done. We need to stay focused and we need to get over the line. So, but one thing I would definitely say, we definitely miss Kobe, man. For those that doubt Kobe and those don't understand why a lot of fans rave about Kobe, yesterday's performance is a clear example of that. I mean, Kobe is probably one of the most comfortable players that we have and can look after the ball well. It's very clear. It's clear. It's night and day. You saw the difference between him and Ugarte in yesterday's performance. So, I don't want to see and hear question marks about Kobe. Kobe's an important player, a very important player to this Manchester United, a guy with a bright future. And yeah, man, and I'm not too sure as to what the reason was for why he was absent yesterday, but I hope he's back for the Chelsea game because we do really, really need him. And just one more last thing on the managerial job. Yeah, like I said, Carrick for me is probably the favourite. He's probably in a pole position. I am leaning more towards him. However, I'm not gonna jump the gun and say Carrick in. I'm not gonna jump the gun and say we need to appoint Carrick. Um, there's no rush. We still got 6 more games to play. There's no rush. There's nothing to rush for. I'd rather just wait, see out these next 6 games because a lot can happen in these 6 games. If we go on some, God forbid, we go on a losing streak, I promise you, no one's gonna be saying Carrick in for next season. So we need to take it game by game and then assess him after the season's done. Once the season's done, then we can sit down and as a fan base and have our discussions. And obviously the club will make their own decision, but we can have these thoughts. But I don't see the rush in it. Am I leaning towards him? Yes, but am I completely Carrick in? Absolutely not. I want to wait and see. Also see what's available out there as well. There might be better candidates. Who knows? Come end of the season. So yeah, that's just where I'm at with Carrick at the moment. But not to take anything away from him, he's done a pretty good job. He's only lost 1 game, 2 games now, one away, one home. His record has been very, very good so far. However, job's not finished. There's still a lot of football still to be played, and once that football is played, then we can have a real discussion after that. But for now, that's just where I kind of stand with it. But yeah, very disappointing, man. I'm not gonna lie to you, very disappointing. I waited since Ramadan for this, since Eid. I waited for this, bro. What is that? Like, genuinely, what is that, man? This club always finds different ways to embarrass me. It's yeah, it's crazy, but it is what it is. This is where we're at. And hopefully, we don't have any more slip ups from now to the end of the season. But anyway, let me know your thoughts. In terms of obviously your thoughts on the game. Who was your man of the match? Honestly, I don't have a man of the match other than Akafor for Leeds. In terms of Man United, maybe Casemiro. Again, he's carrying on with his own redemption tour. He hasn't let the results stop him from still scoring. That combination of Bruno Casemiro is insane. Bruno's obviously picked up another assist. Hopefully, en route to breaking that record. Casemiro is obviously trying to give us the best farewell tour possible. So But I don't really want to pick a standout player because I just think the performance itself as a team was just really poor. It's a poor result. So yeah. But let me know your thoughts in terms of who was your man of the match. Your just thoughts on the game, your thoughts on whether Carrick should, still be manager. Where are you on that? Are you leaning towards him being in or out or a different candidate? Let me know your thoughts on that. And make sure to also hit the like button, the subscribe button as well. And until next time, peace.